I want to thank Van for what he shared, and it really is neat to hear your boss, the guy that that signs the paycheck and everything like that. Can you all hear me back there? Do I need to get down like this? You're all right? Okay. They never make these tall enough. I don't know why. But it's great to hear your boss talking that really the way that he judges my performance is based on my faithfulness. That's a great thing. So I want to thank Leo, who, there he is way back there, and Alex for doing the sound, but Leo and Pilar and Rusty for trusting me. I've known them for a little bit, and I hear him cranking up the sound, so I'm going to pull this up a little bit. I just want to thank them for having me here. 3 years ago, or 3 shows ago, I went to the one in Pensacola, and I was sitting up front, and I just happened to sit next to Dr. Gray, and I'm so glad that I got to meet that guy. That was one of those things where God was directing my path. And we started talking, and I just knew that I needed to be a part of this. I have a short video that I want to play, and then we'll get going.
We're blessed in Southwest Florida, in Collier County and Naples, with one of the most beautiful places in the world to live. We have beautiful beaches and palm trees, but we're also blessed by the opportunity to make an impact on the lives of the less fortunate. Through our efforts, this community is made more beautiful by the way that we care for the less fortunate among us. St. Matthew's House is a local ministry dedicated to fulfilling the call of God on the lives of every believer to impact the world around them by feeding the hungry, by clothing the naked, providing a drink to the thirsty, providing an atmosphere of healing to the sick, providing a shelter for the homeless.
The heart of the mission is that we can really help people that are in poverty get back to a normal life, a meaningful life, a productive life.
It's just spectacular to see the men grow in a willingness to do dishes, in a willingness to get out of bed on time, in a willingness to honor their brothers, which of course is fruit of what God's doing in their hearts and lives.
And we build such great relationships that they truly do become part of our family.
It's not just a program, it's people that are really invested in seeing other people succeed.
70% of our budget is developed through our social enterprises.
We have 5 thrift stores, 2 coffee shops, 2 catering companies, a retreat and conference center, and a car wash that helps support our mission. Every dollar donated can go to support our programs, which include 2 homeless shelters, men's and women's recovery centers, a soup kitchen, direct assistance food pantry, and job training programs.
Justin's Place is a 1-year faith-based Christ-centered program that uses the 12 steps of recovery, where they can start working and continue to grow in their relationship with the Lord.
The Port LaBelle Inn and Conference Center provides real-world opportunities to train people in the hospitality business and food service.
We help them discover their recovery. We help them discover their faith. And then we give them the job skills to go back out into the world so that they don't have to resort to old behaviors, so that they can continue to provide for themselves and their families and live an uplifting life. We're just loving on people in that kitchen, but we're using food to do it.
The cafes have been a real integral part of impacting the lives and providing income right now for hurting families.
They're able to find out, who they are in Christ while working through the 12 steps. That's when the real life change starts to happen. They can start looking for full-time work and continue to grow in a relationship with God.
God's really good at taking something that someone has thrown away and making something beautiful.
No matter what we've done in our past, He can take that and use it for His good.
St. Matthew's means everything to me. I mean, it saved my life, it changed my life, it helped me get out of addiction.
I truly believe this place is ordained by God. I'm no longer a slave to my addiction. I found an identity that I was searching for so long, so I could express nothing but sincere gratitude for this awesome mission. There's nowhere like it in the world.
While St. Matthew's started as an outreach to help those who are less fortunate, we really found out that all of us have an area of need. And by getting involved in God's effort to redeem those who are broken, we're all improved, we're all enriched, and all of our lives are able to have that healing touch.
So that's a little bit about our mission. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about me. And I'll explain the dog picture in a minute. Can't walk away from that. So my name's Jamie Shedden. I'm the Director of Retail Operations at St. Matthew's House. I was born in Naples, Florida. It's a horrible place to be born and raised, but I've done okay. I am married. I'm actually a newlywed, basically. My lovely wife is sitting in the back. She was one of the two ladies that registered you out there. Between us, we have 3 adult children, Allison, Connor, and Megan. Wasn't sure if we should keep Connor and the adult children or move him down, but we did. I have a 14-year-old daughter, Dora, and we have 5 granddogs. We don't have any grandchildren yet, but we have Glory, Zeus, Keto, Demi, and Butters. This is Butters. He's a granddog. He is an internet phenomenon. Anytime there's a new picture of Butters, he's got literally thousands of followers. We haven't figured out how to make money off of that yet. But anyway, I've been in retail for 29 years, 15 years in the Christian Booksellers Association, and 14 years with St. Matthew's House. And Van told the story. I'm never going to send him my PowerPoint presentation anymore because there's several things he talked about he wasn't supposed to. But, you know, I was really good in Christian retail. And I'm not saying this to be proud or arrogant or anything, but I was voted as one of the top 5 Christian bookstore managers in the United States. And we were doing great. We had great technology and we grew our store super fast. And then our industry hit a wall. And Walmart, actually. Yeah, I was actually I just thought of that. But we did. All of a sudden, Sam's Club was selling Bibles cheaper than I could buy them. Van will probably remember I sent a letter out to all of our customers when the Passion movie came out because I had to sign a contract saying I wouldn't sell the Passion movie any less than a certain dollar amount to have it in my store. So I thought, man, that's great. Now I can play, on even ground with everybody. And so the movie came out and we put it down almost at cost to sell it. And somebody said, oh, I'm gonna get it at Sam's, it's cheaper. And so I went to Zondervan, who was handling it, and I said, hey, how come Sam's is selling this cheaper than I am? I had to sign a contract. They said, Walmart doesn't sign contracts like that. So I sent all mine back and bought mine at Sam's and sold them at a loss to get people to come to my store. But I wrote a letter to everybody on my thing, and I said, we're cheapening the gospel. That we're, I'm not going to go into that, but I really felt like we were doing something there. That wasn't in my notes either. My wife helped me with. So here's my stalker slide. Okay. So you can see up here I've got Dwayne's up here on the top. I've got Craig. Craig already thinks I'm a little bit of a stalker because every time at these shows I'm always like, hey Craig, how you doing? I have Mike's up here, Keith's up here, Rusty's up here, Troy. These are guys that when I come to these shows, and I might have made them a little nervous with this, but that's okay because they make me really nervous anyway. But these are guys, and Rich, I don't have a picture of you, but I got your sorting machine because that thing's awesome. So when you come to these shows, you may think, oh, I know exactly what we're doing already, or you may think these guys have operations that won't work where we're at. But listen to these guys, because these guys are the experts. I came away from every meeting, hearing Dwayne going to his store 2 years ago in Pensacola. I think we went to your store. And, I learned stuff. And I went back, I have with me Alex. He's been working with me for 13 years, and he's my warehouse manager. And Tara's been with me 5 years. And she's my right hand. She's my one of the co-managers of my big store. Actually, it's not our big store, but we call it that. So my hope today is to share something either here this morning or when you come and visit my store that you can take back that'll really help you be faithful in what you're doing. Something that you can do to make your stores better, your mission better. So in 2005, and Van was right, I was sitting in my Christian bookstore that night and I was like, Lord, I don't know what to do. I've tried everything. I'm really good at this, but it's failing. We were losing thousands of dollars a month. We were $250,000 in debt. That's a lot of personal debt. And so he walked in, and I remembered a little different. I thought I asked him first if he needed a manager, but either way, that year, May of 2005, I walked into this building, and it was a mess, and it had been cleaned up when I walked in there. They had a manager that came in before me, and they had changed it. Used to have, before that manager, they used to have the front counter, they had the front door propped open, and guys would sit at the counter smoking, you know. So at least we didn't have that when I walked in. But we started cleaning the place up. We started, I gotta remember to switch these. We started cleaning it up. We started, they had just a radio playing in the store, and I put in some speakers and ran some wires, and we had music in the store. Van gave me a goal of $50,000 a month. That was what he wanted me to do in that thrift store. And my first fiscal year as manager, we did $679,000, which we felt really good about that. And so some of the things that we did, like I said, cleaning it up, we threw away the junk. You know, we had these big bins of like children's toys, little toys for 25 cents, and they took up space. And for us, it was like, no, you know, the big thing that I'm going to talk to you about today is perceived value. It just made the place look junky, and we just cleaned it up, and our customers started to notice. And people said, oh, you sell nice stuff? You get nice stuff in your stores? Yes, we do. Oh, well, I didn't think you guys took nice stuff. We thought you just took junk. So I've got some nice stuff to give you. Okay. I'm not a speaker. I'm a thrift store guy. But so this is the reason why I got hired. This is our Bonita store. And St. Matthew's House opened it the year I started. They went with the St. Matthew's House of Treasures name, which I don't think Van and I either one ever really liked. It's the last one still with that name on it. People didn't know what it was. And we had some bad years when it opened. It was the first year it opened, and I wasn't the manager, but the first year it opened, it was losing some months $10,000. It was tough. It was a hard time for us. Oh, you know what? I am really sorry. I'm a little nervous. Back to this store. That store is budgeted this year to do $1 million. It's $191 per square foot is what it's doing. It's 6,000 feet. It's a mile from our boutique store, and we'll talk about this. It's 1 mile from the store you're going to go see today. And the difference between the two stores and the performance. It's funny, I used to have a manager that worked there. He called the other store the Crystal Palace. He's like, well, it's hard to make this store do anything with the Crystal Palace right up the street. But anyway. So our Bonita store, 9,000 square feet. It's an acre of carpet back then, and we had to vacuum it all the time. It's currently doing $151 a square foot, and the budget this year, $1.3 million. This is a store that was losing money when we first opened it. And we went through cleaning that up, even though we had carpet and it just kind of struggled. It was in a bad location and there wasn't traffic, and it took us a while to build the business there. A really neat thing that happened a couple years ago is in 2015, the sales in July of 2015 in that store were $57,000. July of 2016, the sales were $74,000. So why the big jump? Well, in June of 2016, we closed that store for a couple weeks and we put new floors in there. And then we went in there and we trained the staff to merchandise it. And we told them, man, your floors are so amazing now. People are going to come in, they're just going to love your store. and their sales just went up. Same product going into the store, same staff working in the store, but the sales jumped and the customers got excited. So I have young daughters. I'm gonna tell you a story. I don't know, any of you remember the show Once Upon a Time that was on TV? It was like all modern retelling of like Snow White and Prince Charming and all those things. So there's one of these episodes where the Wicked Queen's causing some problems, and Snow White's got to fight her, and nobody beats the Wicked Queen. And so Prince Charming takes Snow White out in the woods. He goes, I found this sword, it's Excalibur, and I'm going to pull it out of the rock, and I will fight the queen. And he can't pull it out of the rock. And he tries, and he tries. And he said, why don't you try? And so she tries, and she pulls the sword out of the rock, and he's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, you know. So she goes and fights the queen, and she doesn't kill the queen, but she cuts her. And the queen freaks out because nobody's done anything like that to her before, and she takes off. So then you find out it wasn't Excalibur. He just stuck a sword in a rock and pretended he couldn't pull it out. But she believed it was. So neither of them are managers of the Bonita store, so I can tell you this. They just believe they've got Excalibur. You know, we trained our staff that your store is amazing in the way you lay things out. My wife was working with us back in those days, and she trained the manager how to lay out his store floor. And they laid it out away, and here it is almost 3 years later. If he sells a queen-size bed out of this area, what's he do? He brings another queen bed in and puts it in that area. And the store's laid out the same, and it's a beautiful store. Leo walked through that store with me last year. Okay. So I started at St. Matthew's House in 2005. I was there about a year. The manager that went to Bonita said, hey, this store isn't cutting it, I'm moving away. He had another mission he wanted to go be a part of, and he left. And Van said, hey, do you want to manage 2 stores, the Naples store and the Bonita store? And I was young and dumb, and I said, sure. And so I was managing both stores, and then I didn't learn anything. So in 2008, we merged with the Immokalee Friendship House. And Immokalee Friendship House had this little thrift store called La Casa. And it was a 2,000 square foot building that used to be a crop duster hangar. And Van said, hey, you want to manage a 3rd store? And I hadn't learned anything. And I said, sure. And so I started driving. Immokalee's this little farming community. It's got 2 businesses out there, really. It's got the Seminole Casino and tomato fields and packing houses and things like that. It's a very poor community. And this little store did about $8,000 a month on average. And so we went out there. It wasn't this building. And we ran it. And one time I had a contractor out there because I said, I want to see what we can do with the building. Is there any way we can fix it up, put a facade on the front of it, make it look like a better building? And he walked around, took measurements, and he came back and he goes, you know what I would do if it was mine? And I said, no, what would you do? And he said, I'd blow it up. You know, he said, it's got rats. You know, there's no way you can seal it. It used to be a crop duster hangar with these big doors that opened, and the floors were like this, and it was a mess. And but we ran our business out of there for a long time, and we were doing $20,000 a month out of that little store, going from $8,000. And it was really just cleaning it up as much as we could. It had a lime rock driveway, or parking lot. So about 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago, we made a decision where we were going to tear that building down. They didn't let me drive the bulldozer. I talked to them about it, and they said no. It was like some kind of insurance thing. But we tore that building down, and we got prepared to get a loan from a bank, and I think we had signed all the preliminary agreements. We just hadn't signed the final documents, and we needed right at $1 million to do this building, and right next door to this building's our shelter out there, the Friendship House. And we had a couple $100,000 in the bank that was part of a settlement that Taco Bell, I think, or somebody gave money to the Immokalee Friendship House, and so we had that money. We needed about $700,000 for the rest, and we had a loan secured. Right before we signed it, somebody came to Van and said, hey, there's this lady that died, and she left some money to us, St. Matthew's House, has to be used in Immokalee. And Van's like, I think I'm telling a story, right? He's like, well, how much is it? And they said, well, it's $700,000, you know. So we went to the bank and we said, hey, we don't need to borrow that money.
It was the day we were supposed to sign for the loan.
Okay. That's how God does things, right? Yeah. So we built this store. This store is 5,900 square feet. We had to go 100 under. We cut that corner on an angle, so we had to stay under 6,000 square feet because of the parking we had. That store in Immokalee budgeted to do $762,000 this year. It's probably going to come in around $850,000. It is performing so well. And I'll tell you something about that. Beautiful store. It started doing really well. It wasn't hitting the numbers we wanted. I was working with the manager out there. He was a great guy, going to school for hair cutting. Okay, so I was like, why don't you go to school for like retail management or something? Like, no, do hair design and stuff. So it just really wasn't working. And so we talked to him, and he said, you know, it'd probably be better if I moved into something else. And so we moved him into something else. We put a different manager out there. The sales went up $10,000 a month with a different manager. And, you know, I'll tell you, I don't know how many of you have read Extreme Ownership. It's a great leadership book, and there's a quote in there that says, there's no bad teams, there's only bad leaders. And there's some really, really good stuff. So that store is, like I said, it's the only one we've ever designed to be a thrift store and build it from the ground up. It's got the polished concrete floors. It's got antique barnwood slat wall. It's got the exposed ceiling with LED lighting, security, sound system, everything in that store is state of the art. And it's an amazing store. And the community calls it the Immokalee Mall because it's the biggest retail operation out there. Okay, I want to take a break from going through the stores and show you this. This is our sales growth from 2006 to 2018. Now, I know these two and myself, when Van said it's a $9 million organization, we both went, oh God, what have they got planned for us next year? Because we're right at $8 million, I think is our budget this year, but he called me, I was in Yellowstone with my family, and Van calls me and he says, hey, we just bought this $6 million building. You got another store. I was like, okay, that's awesome. We wanted that building. So what do we got, a couple months, 3 months, something like that? He goes, no, you got 6 weeks to get open. And I was like, wow, 6 weeks, I don't know. He goes, well, it's not really 6 weeks because it's going to be a few weeks before the car dealership gets all their stuff out of there. So Alex is actually a manager of that store when we opened it. And that's how things happen for us. But anyway, so looking at this, you can see that, you know, for these years, we had a pretty steady curve. It's about a 16% growth going from $1 million a year to $2 million a year in sales. And then all of a sudden, we have not that button, we have this one. We have this growth, and this growth, and this growth. And the question is, what happened there? My wife likes to point out that's when I hired her back in the day. But really, what happened there was this. This is the store that we're going to go look at today. This is only 6,000 square feet. 12 by 12 tiles in it, and if you want to take the time when you're there today to count them, there's 6,000 of them. That's not a very big store, but it's going to do $3.5 million this year. That's pretty amazing. And there's a number of reasons why we're able to do that. But I want to point out several things about this building. First of all, when somebody gives you a building like this, it would be like somebody giving you a used Ferrari. That's great. You're going to drive it around, you're going to have fun, and then you're going to have to go change the oil, and you're going to find out you can't afford the oil change. You know, a big giant building like that has a lot of overhead. I don't know how many lights we have in the parking lot. It used to be a car dealership. We have an elevator. Those things are expensive to maintain. There's a lot there. It's the people that take a building and make that building profitable. It's having the right team doing the right things that can make that building profitable. And we have a great team of people. So, big, beautiful showroom, 14-foot ceilings, all these columns, all the glass all around. It was a Pontiac GMC dealership. The donation drop-off area there, like Van was talking about, I think it's one of the best I've ever seen anywhere. People pull in, it's Southwest Florida, so we have storms, and people can pull in. It can be stormy and windy, and it's dry in there. And you remember in Back to the Future when Marty's walking through town and he sees a car pull in the gas station and everybody comes running out and they're checking the oil and cleaning the windows and doing all that at the gas station. I don't know if any of you remember him doing that as a kid. But I said, that's what I want. And I had to show them the video because none of them remembered that. I said, I want when a car pull in there, I want you guys all to run out there, not check their oil or anything, but, offer them a bottle of water. Unload their car, give them a tax receipt. We have electronic tax receipts too. So there's a lot that we do there. But the big thing, I showed you that store where I started, is 1 mile from there. So I can take, office furniture is not a good example. So I was looking around the room to see if it's something I could point out. But one of these chairs out here in the entryway where we came in, I could take one of those chairs in my regular thrift store, probably get, you walk by, you probably looked at them, $80, maybe? How much would you sell one of them for in that store?
Probably $125, $175.
Yeah, I was going to say even Alex would sell them higher than that. So, but the perceived value, it's 1 mile away. The demographics are exactly the same. But we sold a $1,200 purse last week. Was it the Louis Vuitton? $1,900 purse last week. We sold a $22,000 rug in December. Those things don't happen every day. In the past, that would have been a great month for us to sell a $22,000 rug. We'd all went home. When Alex and I started, we said, no, Van's shaking his head no. When Alex and I started this store, we said, we're hoping to do $6,000 a day. If Tara does $6,000 a day, I'm knocking on her office like, what's going on? What's your store, you don't have stuff, what, and it really has been a tremendous godsend. But there's many reasons for this. Donation stream's the number one thing. And when I say number one thing in these things, that always comes after what Van was talking about. That always comes after the Lord. That always comes after being faithful. In the business side of it, being faithful. But treating our donors with respect. And I don't care if they're pulling in an old Toyota, and I have an old Honda, but I don't care what they're pulling in, we're going to treat them the same. And we say the same thing to our drivers. If you're going into a $20,000 house or a $20 million house, I want you to treat the people the same. I don't think there's any $20,000 houses in Naples. Okay. So the second reason that this store has become such a big thing for us is our warehouse. It's 12,000 square feet, which is like an outbuilding over in Rich's area. But our warehouse allowed us to bring all the donations back to one area, one centrally located area. And we go through it and we pull the best of the best out. And the best of the best goes into our boutique store. Everything else gets sorted, and the young man on the forklift there, Brandon, is our warehouse supervisor. Him and Alex are communicating all day long or during the day with our store managers. And the store managers will email them and say, don't need any entertainment centers. Anybody need any entertainment centers and have a truck here? Okay, Craig, did you bring a truck? All right, okay. That's pretty much, I think everybody puts that in their signature line on their email. I don't need entertainment centers. But they'll email and say, hey, I need queen beds. I need dressers. I need a living room set. I need this. And so as things are coming off the trucks at the end of the day, they're going into these 5 different bays for those stores. And used to be when the trucks came right back to the store, you might one day be sofa world. People come in and you got 400 sofas. And the next day you might be, entertainment center jungle or something. But so now we're able to do a lot more with that. The other thing that goes on in this warehouse, because you never get enough of the really good stuff, is we have to clean things, we have to fix things, we have to repurpose things. And that we have 3 full-time guys working in the warehouse that does that. That helps us a lot. The other thing that happens is you'll get a sofa from one part of town and you'll get a love seat from another part of town, and they're the same kind. Same brand, same look. We're able to put sets together and move them out. Okay. Van was talking about the Fort Myers store a little bit, the Miracle Mile Station. We got this building August of 2015. We opened. It has a cafe in it. It's in a bad location. It's a beautiful building. It was built in the 60s. It was a post office. It's got a really cool, like, hidden catwalk in it that before they had security cameras, the postmaster general had a key on the outside and he could go in and walk around and look out through these portals. Van and I think it's really cool. Everybody else thinks it's creepy, but you can walk around up in there and see your staff working. They actually took my key away for that. But this was a good example of what we do, because here was a building that in its day was beautiful. And the post office stopped using it, kind of threw it away. And it sat empty, the window had got broken out, people were sleeping on the back loading dock. And St. Matthew's House came in, and we cleaned it up, we fixed it up, and we made it a functional part of society. And that's exactly what we do with the men and women that come into our program. And so we still kept the name Miracle Mile Station, because miracles do happen there. Just a few weeks ago, somebody thought, hey, you need a drive-through right there. So I don't have a fresh picture of this store because it's got a big wooden front. And the cafe's right there, and I thought, you know what? That might be a good idea, but we don't. We don't want to drive through on that part. So this is a fun part. I don't know how many of you are exotic car enthusiasts, but they are hiring in our car wash, and you do get to drive Ferraris and Rolls Royces and Porsches and Bentleys and Corvettes and even the occasional white Honda there. But we started our car wash and detail center. It's on the property you're going to go to today. And the donor really said, when we looked at the property, he said, I like that car wash area back there. Let's make that work. And it wasn't easy to make it work. We tried to get the kind that you could just drive through working, and I think that's run by some Italian families. I'm not really sure, because you couldn't really break into that business. But we started the car wash and detail center, and we have about 5 guys working out there right now. They do paint restoration. My wife can tell you the great job they do with headlight restoration. Full details. They do amazing things back there, and they're able to take guys from our program and teach them that, because there's always car dealerships in your town. It's not the biggest money maker we have, but it's just a great business. So those are our trucks. We have 10 of them. We have the 6 Hinos in the middle, and we have the 4 Isuzus on the outside. The 6 trucks are 26 foot, and the smaller ones are 18 foot. How many trucks do you have, Troy? I saw Troy. Where's Troy? Back there? Around 20, yeah. We're working on it. So we want to take the 4 Isuzus that we own, we want to get rid of those, or not get rid of them, but we want to let the program use them. We'd like to replace them with leased trucks, because I'm telling you, a leased truck is the way to go. And I don't get any kind of referral bonus from Penske, but I like when my truck breaks down and all my fleet manager has to do is call Penske and say, hey, TS4 just broke down, And every business has their good days and their bad days, but Penske's pretty good about coming out, replacing the truck, giving us one of those big yellow ones to drive while that one's getting fixed. Monitoring 10 trucks, 24 guys. Another thing that we do, all of our guys are professionally trained. We don't use any of our clients on the trucks. If they're a graduate and they've gone through the program and graduated and they're doing really good, then we'll hire them. But we just don't use them out on the truck. I want to make sure when my guys go into somebody's home that they're professional movers. I don't want them getting hurt. I don't want them to hurt somebody's house. I think there's risks associated with it. Me personally, I'm not sure that that's good for their program. You heard Van say that our recovery rates 2 years out are in the 80s percentage. That's really not heard of much in the industry. And we want them to work on the recovery, not work on getting us product back to our stores. So how do we monitor them? This is fun. This is new for us. So Samsara is a company that was actually put together by some guys that worked with Google. And we have real-time monitoring, GPS, we have an in-cab camera, we have a forward-facing camera. The artificial intelligence in this program is, I've never seen anything like it. It can tell me, this is Sal and Kenny, Sal's the driver. It can tell me if Sal's distracted. When you're watching that, I'll get an alert and it'll say, hey, Sal's distracted driving, and it'll send me a little video thing, and I look at it and maybe he's looking at his phone, or he's looking out the window, or something. And we can use that. We can go back to our drivers. The other day, twice now, I've seen Jordan driving without a seatbelt, and something I got to talk to him about. We can hear audio. If there's an event, harsh braking, a hard turn, hitting a curb, God forbid an accident, anything like that, it's going to send me an alert immediately. And then it does an incident report. How many of you like doing incident reports, but HR makes you do them? So this sends me everything with a video clip. And these things go directly to me, our fleet manager, and our risk manager. It's an amazing tool. It updates GPS 9 times a second, something like that. And you can do a helicopter view and it shows you like Google Earth and you see your car going down the road and you can see the video like that. It's a neat tool. Okay. The other thing that we do, we use a company called Vonago. Vonago is used for our online scheduling, routing. We have 4 dispatch operators. I know Troy had 17 last time I heard. You probably got 20 or something by now. But Vonago, V-O-N-I-G-O. And Vonago also has a database in it, that when all of our donors call, we don't have to keep asking Mrs. Smith what her name is every week when she calls to donate. And that is downloadable into Razor's Edge. For those of you using Razor's Edge in your charities, it's a great donor manager. It's an okay donor management tool. So Vonago imports right into that. So currently, we're adding about 200 donors a week to our list through Vonago. And about 40% of our donations are online. If you go to stmatthewshouse.org, on our website, up here it says you can schedule your donation just by clicking a button. You run right through it. So about 40% of our donations now are coming in online. Drives our fleet manager a little crazy because he's like, Jamie, we're getting so many donations, we don't know what to do. I said, that's actually really a good thing. So, another thing that this tells us, it tells me how much idle time my guys are spending. And it'll tell me, it has facial recognition by the end of the month, is what we've been told. So if Craig gets in the truck and it says, hey, Craig's not your regular driver, it's going to send me a little alert that Craig just got in the wrong truck. So, okay. All right. It's a really big thing to me about our industry. Where's it going? What's it doing? Because I don't want to go through that whole thing. I am so glad Walmart's not getting in the thrift store business, right? But more than that, I'm so glad that I can beat Walmart every day. I can beat their prices. I definitely have a better mission. And I don't have anything against, I do, I guess, but anyway. So what is the state of our industry? Recently, Van sent me an article from the Wall Street Journal, and it was about thrift stores going away. And it was a group of thrift stores that were closing stores because they couldn't get volunteers to run them. They couldn't get enough donations. Several things like that. And the same day, Rusty posted on his Facebook page an article from the Star Tribune about how thrift stores are growing rapidly. And if you read the difference between those two articles, the ones in the article that Rusty sent, they were professionally run. They were ones that were being run as a business, and just they were thriving. So how many of you have heard of ThreadUp? Okay, so ThreadUp's a big deal out there. ThreadUp, I have them up here. RealReal, Swamp, Poshmark, of course, Amazon and Walmart. I love that Amazon and Walmart are fighting against each other a little bit. But ThreadUp has a great article. And if you go to threadup.com, and it's spelled like that, THREDUP.com/resale. Their CEO wrote an article about the state of the industry in 2018. Really good stuff. Tell you one thing. Second only to the petroleum industry, the fashion industry is the largest polluter in the world. How many of you knew that the fashion industry was the second largest polluter in the world? One of the issues that we have nowadays is what they call fast fashion. We're going to go buy this stuff, we're going to wear it for a few days, then we're going to get rid of it. Millennials are really big about fast fashion. And clothing's not the biggest thing in our store, but it's a huge part of our industry. So millennials struggle with the fact that they like that fast fashion. I'm going to buy it and wear it and then discard it, but at the same time an environmentally conscious person. So thrift stores, resale shops are exactly the answer to their problem, because we can help them recycle clothing. Read that article, there's a lot on there, but resale is growing 24 times faster than retail, which is great for our industry. But 49% of that growth is what they call resale disruptors. And that's companies like ThreadUp, The RealReal, Swap, Poshmark, and us. Because there's this many thrift stores in this area. But I think, is there anybody else in Southwest Florida that runs a store that's here today? Okay. You guys come from all over the country because you want to learn something. You want to be the best in what you do. And we have to be that way. We have to be the best at what we do. And I was talking to Matt and Mike yesterday. Where are you guys? Okay. Right there, okay. And I was telling them, we have to be disruptors. If we open a new store somewhere, we have to affect everybody else. That's just the way it is. I don't want to hurt any other charity, but I'm confident that my charity is doing what God's called them to do. And so we're going to go into a community, they're going to feel us. St. Vincent de Paul used to be the store in the area. They moved out of our area. And I don't have anything against them. They have great stores, but we did it better, and we served our customers better. And I challenge all of you to do that. So, only 9% of that growth is going to come from the traditional model. The pen's going away. Okay, here we go. First 5 words of the Bible. Anybody want to tell me the first 5 words of the Bible? In the beginning, God created. It's in his nature. That's what he does. He's a creator. And we're created in his image. We should be creators. That should be our spiritual nature, is to be an innovator. And innovating doesn't always mean creating something new. In fact, the word, if you look it up online, is to make changes in something established. That's what I did when I came into our stores. They were established, they weren't doing really well. But I wasn't a thrift store guy. I was a retail guy. You know, I love that. That was one of the things when Dwayne was talking, that he came from, I think, Brooks Brothers and a couple other retail establishments, is bringing that retail practice into what we do. We cannot settle for selling the same old offerings to the same old customers in the same old way at the same old price. And if we're only maintaining the status quo or what has produced success in the past, our impact and return on investment are actually declining. Part of a Christian peer group called C12, and I pulled this from their latest curriculum that I was involved in, because this is exactly what we're talking about. This is what Van stole from me earlier when he talked about the parable of the talents. You know, you got, I believe, the one guy that was given the 5 talents, And he went out there and he invested it. He did some things and he tried some things. And maybe he failed. Maybe he lost a couple talents there a little bit and then he gained it back. But when the Lord returned, he had 10 talents to give to the Lord. And the Lord called him faithful. And he said, you've been faithful over little, I'm going to give you much. And the second guy, he might have been like one of us. He might have been on this line, but he improved too. He did some amazing things. And the third guy, he was this guy. I'm not going to lose it. I don't want to lose what God's given me because God's pretty tough, And so I'm just gonna bury it. And that way, he didn't lose a dime. But because we all know this, as the economy grows, there's a thing out there that says if the rate of growth within your organization is slower than the rate of growth on the outside of your organization, you're going to fail. And Craig, I think you read the same book. So that's my thing. I don't want to just do the status quo. I don't think God's called us to do the status quo. Okay, so what do? Donor relations. Again, I said donation streams the lifeblood of what we do. It's the key to what we do. So a few years ago, JCPenney locally in our area, I'm running out of time, so I'm going to speed it up. JCPenney donated some clothing fixtures to us. And they were decent clothing fixtures, and we used them in our stores for a number of years. Then I found out a few years later that JCPenney was going to remodel their whole store. So I went to them and I said, hey, we would love to have your stuff. And they said, no, we're not giving you anything anymore. And I said, what happened? Well, last time we gave you those clothing fixtures, nobody came and told us thank you. I said, what? So it was my fault because I was the thrift manager, but I just assumed that's what the development department does when they get the tax receipts, is they call people and tell them thank you. But we didn't. And so I went to Van and I said, hey, I want to hire somebody full-time to go out and thank my donors, to go out and try to get new donors. And he said, he took me over to a window, down upon those small of us that work out there. And he said, see that guy right there? And we used to use community service people in our donation drop-off. We had one guy that worked on a Saturday, you could smell alcohol on his breath. It wasn't a paid position. And he said, why would I hire someone? Why would I let you hire someone to go out in the community when donors that are coming here are not being treated well? And I was like, okay. So I'm gonna hire two guys, we compromised. I hired two women, and I know, I'm just kidding, because they were phenomenal. In fact, I married one of them. Okay. So what they did, the first thing they did, they grabbed a bunch of donations and put them in their car. And then they went out into the community to all these other thrift stores, and they donated those items to other charities. And they came back with a report, and they said, this is what everybody else does. Here are the things we really like. Here are the things we hate. So they said, what we want to do is we want to do what we liked even better. And we want to do what we hated never. And so we created a policy and procedure of how we handle donations and how we treat people, and that everybody gets greeted. And like I said, you pull up, you get a bottle of water. I think now we have 5 full-time people plus a manager working in donation drop-off. I had my presentation got really super long, but I had a spreadsheet that we used to track it. In August, they were getting 800, 900 cars a week pulling through donation drop-off in that location. Perceived value is the other thing. And I told you a little bit about the price of the chair and the 2 different things. You couldn't have sold a $22,000 rug down the street. You just could not have sold it. And it's the same area of town. But it's the way the store looks. And the store looks, it's getting better. It got painted yesterday, and we're fixing it up. But it's our oldest store, and it hasn't been remodeled. Hopefully this summer we're going to do floors and do some different things in there. Leadership training's a big one. I mentioned C12. I don't know how many of you have heard of C12. but it's a national organization. I would really encourage your CEOs to go. They have a key player. Van's in our CEO group, and I'm in the key player group. I've learned so much about business. Van wouldn't have hired me in 2005. That Jamie in 2005, he wouldn't have hired today. I couldn't run the business that we have today. I can now. Just saying. All right. St. Matthew's House has Leadership Academy, which is key people that we see growing up in the organization in different parts of our organization. We have that. It's a company-wide thing. Sales training, we do that in our stores. Manager in training. If somebody comes in, they say, hey, I want to be a manager in your thrift store, they need to spend a year being a manager in training. We're just not going to hire a brand new manager and stick them in a store. That's been disastrous for us in the past. Good to great. Bringing somebody in from the outside rarely is the way to go. Refining the process. That's why I come here. That's why I don't have a bunch of slides about what we do in the back and how we're sorting clothes and how we're doing those things, because I don't have room. I don't have room for a machine that Rich has. But I came back and I said, here's what Rich is doing. Here's what I saw Troy doing. Was her name Sherry last year that shared and had all the pictures? I'm glad she wasn't here this year because I would have been super nervous. But the things you guys are doing in your stores, I'm trying to model it. Troy, every time I hear you talk, Alex, it's like, oh, I'm going to take a week off. Because I come back and I say, here's what Troy's doing. And he's got all this, you know. So, some of the tools that have worked for us. I'm not selling secure retail. I know the secure retail guys are here. I know there's another point of sale company here. We use secure retail. It's tied in with Data Candy. Data Candy is our customer loyalty program. It also does our gift cards. It is crazy how many of you have like a CVS or a Walgreens like card, one of those little like, you go in and you sign. How many of you know how much money you have on that card or how many points you've earned on that card? I don't, but our customers, they know exactly how many points. So every time you buy something in one of our stores, you get 5% basically cash back. So you spend $100, you get $5 the next time you come in to spend in the cafe and any one of the stores. It's very aggressive. It's so aggressive, we had to change our budget this year because last year we were like, wow, so many people used our guest loyalty thing that we had to change how we budget. But I have 46,000 guests, and we're adding 111 a week right now, I think is what the reporting says. So 111 new customers every week, and on average our customers spend $29 on every visit. So that's a big increase every month. Data Candy does an app. It's on our phone. It's a St. Matthew's House app, and you have a little barcode when you go in, or you can give them your phone number. Secure Retail gives us the reporting we need. I need to know what's trending in what store. I need to know if long sleeve shirts sell better in this store, I'm going to send long sleeve shirts there. I also want to know what tagger, and we're just starting on this. There's so much stuff we can do, and we're just trying to figure it out. But I can tell you what tagger tags the most every day and how her stuff sells, or his stuff sells, you know. Tara might tag more than Alex, but Alex's stuff might sell. Now, does it sell too fast? Because we have a 3-week cycle before things go on sale. I don't want everything selling the first week. I'd like it in that second week, because then we know the pricing's right. I'll go up here, cleaning, repairing, and repurposing. Don't put dirty stuff out on your floor. You know, clean it up. If it's got water damage and stuff, I know we want to be good stewards. Throw some of that stuff away, because it just makes everything else look not good, you know. Don't put junk out on your floor. I'm sorry. I want better than that when I go shopping in a store. I don't want to walk into, I have to go to a big and tall store, but if I walk in the store and they got junky stuff or stained stuff or it smells like urine when I walk in, I don't want to shop there. Google pages. Okay, so when we opened our Fort Myers store, and I was up there one day and I said, hey, I wonder what happens when I Google thrift stores near me. Well, it sure didn't show my store. It showed everybody else's store. And I'm sitting in the parking lot, you know. So we had to wrestle with Google a little bit. It didn't cost us anything. They'll try to get you to buy like somebody to walk through your store and take video. But we just went back and forth with them and we got our stores on there. We found out that our other stores that have been around a long time, they weren't on there either. But now, if you Google thrift store, if you Google thrift store near me right now, you'll probably get our Bonita store, Fort Myers store, somewhere in the list. The analytics that Google sends me every month, how many people visited last month. I had 17,581 people found one of our stores in December by Googling it. 357 of those people asked for directions. I think there were, I didn't write that number down. There was a bigger number than that went to our website, which is good for our charity. 121 of them called us from that search. That didn't cost me a dime. I just made sure that our Google pages were right. So I'm glad we were going to have my boss, Van's my ultimate boss, but I have the COO, Steve Bruder, is my direct supervisor. And I'm glad he's not here, and we're going to have some of our board members here, because this next part, I told my wife, I said, I feel a little uncomfortable, but you guys are my peers, and I know what you go through. I think I know what you go through. So you get your team together, and you put together a budget, and we worked on it. And these two people, you know, they helped me, and we went to every manager. What do you think you can do next year? This is what your store did this year. What do you think you can do next year? You know, we looked at industry growth, and we came back with like a 5% growth, and we presented it. You guys are going to hear a different part of the story, and you're not allowed to share that anywhere. So we presented it. I presented it to my boss. I said, hey, here's what we're going to do next year. Drivers are costing me more. We're having to pay entry-level drivers $14 an hour to get the quality of people that we want on our trucks. That's costing us more. We had a big hurricane come through a year ago, a little year and a half ago, and we lost almost a month of sales. And but what happened is all of a sudden the drivers were like, hey, you know, I'm making like $13 an hour, and there's a roofing company or a pool screen company that's offering me $18, $19 an hour to go work for them. And you can't blame them, you know, they got families. And we have great benefits, but you can't pay your rent, you know, with your paid time off hours. So we had to adjust wages to keep the good people working for us. So we presented a budget with basically our bottom line was going to go down a little bit. But it was a good budget. It was solid. To me, a budget is, I know how much money I'm going to have in August. Okay. And so we presented it, and my boss says, no, that's not going to work. You know, the charity needs more of that. I know Van's heart. Van's heart is, there's people dying every day. You know, there's people sleeping in their cars with their kids. And as long as those things are going to go on, we need to help more and more people. So they said, you got to go back, you got to give us more money. Has anybody ever done that when they did their budget? And you're like, yeah, okay. So as a leader, you can't go back to your staff and say, my boss is a dummy. You know, he doesn't know what's going on. We're going to have to change our budget. You have to go back and say, hey, I was talking to Steve. I had a really good idea. We can do more than that, you know. We can, instead of 5%, we can do 10%. What do you guys think? They look at me like I'm crazy, you know. But that's what a good leader has to do. And so we talked about it, and we figured out, okay, yeah, we can do this, and we moved some things around, and we were going to add some people in the evening doing stuff, and so we didn't do it. And we came up with a budget, and it was approved by the board. And then my boss, who's not here, so funny that in our fiscal year starts in July. In August, he sends out an email and he says, guess what? I have a great idea. Everybody do 5% more than your budget. It'll be a challenge. Okay. All right. So I go to my team and I present that. I said, hey, there's a challenge made to every department in St. Matthew's House. Hospitality, which is catering. You know, everything we do, everybody has been challenged to beat their budget by 5%. How can we do it? So this young lady went to one of the C12 meetings. I wasn't able to attend, and they talked about retail pricing strategies. And she said, you know, in the regular retail market, at the end of all your expenses being paid, you end up, some stores, 5% net margin at the very end. That's kind of an average. If you added 1% of price at the top of everything, only 1%, there's no expense tied to that. You go from 5% net margin to 6% net margin, which is a 20% increase, okay? In thrift, you know, we operate on about a 35% margin net at the end of the day, which would be great if I was not having to give all that money to Van, because I would make a lot of money. But that's not why we're in this. So we said, we were talking about it, and we said, what if we put 95 cents on every tag? Because we were pricing clothing in our regular stores $3, $5, and $7. And you know, furniture was $250 or $350 or $125. I said, what if we just put 95 cents on everything? So $3.95, $5.95, $7.95. $250 couch became $250.95. Things like that. If you do 1,000 tags a day, and we all probably do more than that, that added almost $1,000 a day to our bottom line. That got us to the budget number we needed to hit. It was a big thing. That doesn't work for everybody, you know, but be innovative like that. Go to your team. Don't think you're the smartest one in the room. You know, go to your team and ask them to join you and try to solve some of these problems. So we were able to do that. Okay, one last thing. I think one last thing. I hope for your sakes there's one last thing. Last year, St. Matthew's House went to Best Christian Workplaces Institute, and we wanted to make sure that we were treating our staff well. We wanted to make sure that they thought, as we did, that we were treating our staff well. So we hired this company to come in to do an independent survey. I couldn't see, I don't think Dan could either, because he never questioned me on my answers, but I couldn't see what Alex and Tara answered. You know, it was completely anonymous. So we got all that data back from all of our staff members. We wanted to know, did they feel like where they worked, they had fantastic teams, life-giving work, outstanding talent, uplifting growth, rewarding compensation, inspirational leadership, sustainable strategy, and healthy communication. And in our first year, we didn't really expect it, but in our first year we were certified as one of the best Christian workplaces. We were in the top 10% of all rescue mission type ministries. And so why is that important to us? We want to attract top talent. First of all, we want to be faithful to the people God has brought us. I want to make sure that, I may think I'm treating Alex and Tara really well. I want to make sure that they think that I'm treating them really well. And so one other reason, attracting top talent, while I'm speaking about it, you know, I would say to Dwayne, Rich, Craig, Troy, Keith, and Mike, Southwest Florida is a lovely place to live. And, you know, we are always looking for good people to come. And I say that half joking, okay? But I'm always looking for good people. And I think this is I'm not really recruiting, but I am. So I want to thank you all, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the show. That's all.